thank you all for being here. A lot of good information we are going to share with you today, and looking forward to some great information, and hopefully you can use this information to advance your business, your electrification opportunities, and most importantly, meet the growing need for your residents, whether they're renters or owners, in your multi-unit dwellings. I just want to go over, my name is Antoine Thompson, Executive Director for the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Organization. We're located in DC. We cover DC, Maryland, and parts of Virginia as well. And we'll have some of our partner organizations that will be joining us from around the region, especially in Virginia. I don't see our Virginia team on yet, but I want to thank everyone who has joined us today. I want to do some quick housekeeping things. First, our opening reception will take place in February. We'll be hopefully announcing that sometime next week or the first week in January. So we invite you all to come out to that event. It'll be the first week in February, downtown DC. So we should be announcing that soon. We will be having a number of great events, at least 2 webinars a month, kicking off in January. We'll probably have 3 or 4 that month, but we'll start announcing that schedule next week. And of course, the first week in January, and we'll be kicking off those. We'll have a number of trainings and other workshops as well. May 18th is our golf outing, which will be at the Presidential Golf Course. And whether you can play good or you're horrible like me, we invite you to come. Craven, I know you're a killer, so maybe you'll come up and you and Barry Carr, who's from Syracuse, you all can play on the same team or whatever, but should be it's a great course. And save that date. We'll have a policy forum the day before, and then we'll have our golf outing, which is a great event. I really enjoyed it this year. If you are not a member of the organization, we love for you to join. We will put that information on joining, or you can be a member, and also if you have the resources, you can always be a sponsor, and you can always donate as well. So there's 3 opportunities to support the good work that we are doing. I'm going to go right into it because we got a tight schedule. I'm going to read some of the short bios of some of our speakers for today. One is Barry Carr is the Director of Business Development for ABM's eMobility Group. In that role, he works with public and private fleets to procure, install, and maintain EV charging equipment. He also volunteers as Executive Director, Board Chair of the U.S. Department of Energy's Local Clean Cities Coalition in Syracuse. Has over 25 years of experience providing national support to a variety of alternative fuel vehicles, components, and energy infrastructure suppliers. He has worked with many advanced energy and alternative fuel companies in the role of project management, education and outreach, training, government relations, and direct sales. And he's also in the Department of Energy's Clean Cities Hall of Fame, so produced a lot of publications. Devesh Gupta is a creative thought leader with experience developing solutions in utility, retail, and wholesale energy markets. Subsidiaries of Exelon, a Fortune 500 company, and other market participants. He has special expertise in the utility of the future in green energy strategy, transportation, electrification, retail product development, and marketing, wholesale procurement, and energy policy. He also is a key partner on our Mid-Atlantic electrification project, and BGE is doing a lot of, as a utility, for those of you not aware, that's Baltimore Gas and Electric. They're doing a lot of great work in the multi-unit dwelling and EV charging. Steve Alfaro I see his boss, Edwin, was on earlier. I'm not sure if Edwin is still on, but with Citizen Energy, I do see Edwin's on here. Steve has 15 years of experience producing culturally relevant Latino outreach and education campaigns at the local and national levels. He started his career working at SI TV, now Fuse TV, a leading cable channel for bicultural Latinos, where he helped develop branding campaigns for reality shows. Steve later went on to serve as the creative digital director for Voto Latino, the nation's leading nonprofit organization dedicated to increasing civic participation for Latino youth. He's now a project director for Citizen Energy's new Latino adoption outreach and education initiatives. All right, thank you. All right, so we got a great list of folks. I want, if you can, Kim, just pull up my slide really quick.
Oh,
You can go to the next one.
We're going to ask if you can mute while we're doing the presentation. Thank you.
All right, you can go to the next one. All right, so really quickly, we're a public-private partnership. We have one of our primary focuses as part of the Clean Cities Network, which goes from DC all the way to Hawaii. Our big thing is promoting alternative fuels, particularly reducing the use of petroleum in the country. We'll go to the next slide. So today we're here to talk about multi-unit dwellings, particularly EV charging. And I want to put this in the context that the bipartisan infrastructure law, which I will end with, provides a lot of funding, but EV usage in the country is on the rise. I know we have a lot of real estate people on this call. You all are so key to the continued growth of EV adoption and utilization in the country. And many of the folks do not live in single family homes. So that means they will need a place to charge. It's not like they have a garage and they can go charge in the garage. So since so many people live in condos and a lot more live in apartments, having charging available to people will be really, really important. I think Kim, someone's green spot is trying to get in. So the growth of EVs, as you can see on this chart, is only going to intensify. And now with the new federal tax credits, which I'm sure Barry will talk about, that will only accelerate the demand. And so you will have more and more people asking you about, does your apartment building or condo building have EV charging? Well, we go, I don't know why it's getting these black spots on there, Kim. Let me go to the next slide. So more than 30% of the US live in multi-unit dwellings. The future EV adoptions will increasingly, adopters will live in multi-unit dwellings. Renters will come to expect charging the same way they expect.
You didn't change the name of the Wi-Fi, did you?
No.
Someone needs to mute. Someone needs to mute. The same way now people expect to have access to the internet or it's internet ready. People will expect to have EV charging available. Go to the next slide. So when you're thinking about charging, think about the electrical situation, think about the different type of technologies are available. Make sure your residents and tenants are involved, and you always talk to your utility. You can go to the next one. So our office also has, for those who are in the DC, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia area, we actually have a program called the Mid-Atlantic Electrification Project, where we can put a level 2 charger in your area. We have 4 partners. Our 2 main partners are Blink Charging and Green Spot. We will help with the subsidizing that effort. Each of the charging companies have a different paths to be able to do that. The charging just needs to be accessible to the public 75% of the time, but it can be on public or private property. You go to the next slide. So one of our big focuses is to make sure that as we look at multi-unit dwellings, that they are in underserved areas as well. They can be anywhere, but we have a big focus on underserved areas in rural and urban communities. And there's a Argonne mapping tool that you can see at the top there that's available that can help us map those sites as well. And we have, like I said, over 300 chargers that we have to help get up in those 4 states. Next slide. So with the bipartisan infrastructure law, which just celebrated a 1-year anniversary, there's over $8 billion that will go for charging. Over $2 billion will go for what they call community charging in underserved areas in rural and urban communities. So look forward to that. That should be announced sometime in the first quarter of next year. And that could help drive even more charging for multi-unit dwellings and in other underserved areas around the country. Go to the last slide. And just how you can help. If you would like to get some charging in your area, let us know. We work on doing workshops, seminars, training. We do ride-in drives. We can come to your, whether by Zoom or in person, to your, speak with your tenants, your condo or association board or your HOA. We are here to help make that happen, and our information is right there. It's really easy. If you want us, we can also, in terms of the charger, we put in the chat. There's a quick form you fill out, and then we will forward that over to one of our partners so they can move forward. So thank you. I want to next go to Barry Carr, who is with ABM and a longtime leader in the Clean Cities movement. Many of us have been in the clean energy space on and off for 20 years, and now is the time. So we are so excited to be here. So Barry, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Antoine. And it's nice to see some familiar faces and names here. I'm Barry Carr. I'm traveling, so forgive me, and thank your local coffee shop for allowing me to use their internet here during a snowstorm. I'm going to do a brief overview of what ABM does, what I do, and how this fits in with multi-unit dwelling strategy. Next slide, please. So ABM is a huge company, probably one of the larger companies that you've never heard of. They have over $7 billion in revenue, over 130,000 employees, and primarily they are known as a facilities management company. So if you're in a hospital, you're in an airport, you're parking somewhere, you're in an auto dealership, you're in a college, you'll see ABM people cleaning the buildings, maintaining the heating and air conditioning, operating or maintaining shuttle buses, and providing general maintenance and services in school districts. So about 8 years ago, we decided to set up an eMobility division. And our division continues to grow. I think we just hit 100 employees. And to date, we have installed a little over 28,000 charge ports, which makes us one of the bigger players in this space. Next slide. Well, this is a little bit more of a commercial. Don't worry, it's almost over. We are the 3rd largest parking lot operator. So to give you a quick example of a project we're working on now is we're installing level 2 and DC fast charge at LAX at the airport. There we control the parking. You'll pull into your space. You'll show an app. When you enter the garage, it'll tell you where to go, where the charger's available. It will know if you filled it out properly, how long you're going to be gone, and it'll know that you probably want to buy your electricity in the middle of the night when it's significantly cheaper. So you have a lot of options when you're driving an electric vehicle. Next slide, please. These next 2 or 3 slides, I want to use them to emphasize how important this is to you in the multi-unit dwelling world. I am fortunate. I live in upstate New York. I have a house. I have a garage. I have a level 2 charging station inside my garage. So I typically plug my car in every night. I also have workplace charging where my office is located in downtown Syracuse. So I have the ability to also charge while at work. However, in multi-unit dwellings, that is a much, much tougher proposition. In many cases, the parking spots are shared in an apartment building, for example. Then in condos, a lot of times the buildings are older. So it's going to require that you upgrade the circuitry within the building. But what's important to note is this stuff is really happening. I've been involved in the Clean Cities program for almost 30 years and in the electric vehicle space for longer than that. And never has it been more busy. So to give you a real brief idea, fairly soon when you go to a Cadillac dealership, you're going to be able to order a Lyriq. Antoine, you probably already got one on order. But Cadillac is going to be General Motors' Tesla Buster is kind of how they refer to it. So Cadillac's entire line is going to be electric by 2025, and that's literally now almost less than 2 years away. The rest of General Motors products, including Chevrolet, Buick, and GMC, they have a commitment to be 100% electric by 2035. Porsche, in their dealerships, they are going to be 80% electric by 2030. Next slide, please. BMW is going to hit the 50% goal by 2030 of having their models fully electrified. Audi is a little more aggressive. Audi's going to be 100% electric worldwide by 2026. Again, that's a little over 3 years away. Volvo is going to be 100% electric by 2030. And one more slide here. And then finally, Mini Cooper is going to be 100% electric just shortly after 2030. Harley Davidson has an electric motorcycle called Livewire. They've recently spun that off into a separate company. So you can go and buy an electric motorcycle now. That's all the Livewire dealerships are going to sell. And then Volkswagen, which is also the parent company of Porsche and Audi, is going to be 100% electric by 2035.
I'm doing my first official Donald J. Trump NFT collection right here right now. They're called Trump Digital Trading Cards. These cards feature similar.
Tim, can you
Boy,
mute everybody, please?
Somebody better mute that. What's important to note here, and the reason that I'm able to share this information is that ABM, who I represent, they provide and install and operate the chargers in all of these dealerships. Next slide, please. One of the things we get involved with quite often being in the parking business is we have the ability to design and help you if you're a commercial building owner or you're an owner of multi-unit dwellings or you're a manager of a building. We can help you lay out the parking lot. We have our own engineers internally. And some of the things you need to know is where are the utilities coming from? So if I own an apartment building or a condo building, and I had residents trying to electrify, the very first thing I would do is go down and see where the power enters the building, see that there is at least 208 to 240 volts, so you could put level 2 charging in. see if perhaps there's 480 volts available. And then I would also see that there's available space inside that box, because each charger has to be on its separate breaker per code. Next slide, please. Matt, you're right to laugh at the Trump appearance. It's important to note that one of the things we do that's a little different from charger suppliers is besides carrying our own line of ABM designed level 2 and DC fast charge units, now we also have resale agreements with over 30 different manufacturers. So when we do go into a building, we have the ability to give you what it is you really need, maybe not what's just coming from one particular vendor. But all these vendors are good people, and I would urge you to contact more than one as you go through your journey. Next slide, please. What we're doing on the ABM side is we have an entry level 2 charger. That's a charger that works at 208 to 240 volts. I'm going to answer that question just a second, Brian. We also have customized software to operate that charger that also includes load management, something that actually came up on the VCI Mud call earlier today that I was on, and I think Matt Wade, you were on it, and Alan. Is that the software will allow, if you don't have adequate capacity to charge multiple vehicles at the same time, you can split the amount of current going to those vehicles and adjust it that way. So again, that's a level 2 charger on the left that activates and utilizes the charger that's in your vehicle. And then in the center is a DC fast charge unit. You're not going to see many of these at multi-unit dwellings. You may see some at public parking areas, and you're going to be seeing them on the alternative fuel corridors along major interstates. I passed some today on Interstate 81, right at the border of New York and Pennsylvania. Next slide, please. I'm going to answer that question too. Let's do both of them right now. First, the question from Brian in Maryland was about ADA requirements. ADA requirements come from state to state. So I can tell you that in New York, we do have requirements that as chargers go in, 20% of the spots have to be ADA compatible. The charger vendors and manufacturers do make chargers that are accessible at a lower level. There are also chargers that offer drop-down cords so they can be reached if someone is in a wheelchair or in a sitting position. You could still add the charger. In cities in California, the code is much stricter. 25% of parking spaces have to that are being electrified have to be ADA compatible. So it's very important to either include an outside engineering firm in your design or work with a company that has internal engineers that are familiar with the ADA codes. And again, these are state codes. They are not federal codes. I see the one about adding green spots. Certainly be happy to do that, Alan. The presentation being sent out, certainly you can send my presentation out. Demand charges. I alluded to this, but the way that we on the commercial side deal with demand charges is that the chargers are intelligent enough to recognize the vehicle. So when you go to a monitored charger, whether it's a Charge Point or EVgo or SemaConnect or Eaton or Siemens or ABB or ABM, if it is being controlled by software and monitored, it can read the VIN number of your vehicle. It can assume what your operation is. An example, a real world example of that would be when I go to work and plug in, it knows that when I'm there, it knows how many kilowatt hours that I need to recharge my battery pack, and it knows that I'm going to be there for 8 hours. So it will adjust and lower the amount of current going to my vehicle to give me the correct number of electrons over an 8-hour period versus a visitor who comes in and plugs in. If it doesn't recognize you as a resident of the building, or it doesn't recognize you as a tenant or a condo owner, it assumes you're a visitor. It may charge you an additional fee. It may also turn up the current so you can charge your vehicle quicker and make it available for the tenant or another person to come along later. So there is load management software. The other thing you can do for demand control in larger projects is include batteries. So the batteries that can provide resiliency for the system as a backup can also be used as load management devices. Architects design parking spots, that's correct.
Why don't we try to hold the rest of the questions to the
Yeah,
end so we can get. the-
okay, let's do that. All right, let's go to the next slide. These are the other solutions that ABM is offering directly, some of the components. So again, you get a good idea of the physical size of these devices. Next slide, please. These are all things that you can do with software. That's okay that you skipped that slide. We're almost there. These are the types of projects that I work on. We recently acquired a microgrid company. So now on larger projects, we're offering resiliency, and a microgrid is essentially a standalone utility grid. It can be connected to the utility where it makes sense. There's two-way communication, two-way transmission. So think about having a large parking lot, or think about being a commercial vehicle, commercial building with a whole bunch of people plugged in at the same time. If the utility lost power, the microgrid can power the chargers and also allow the utility to bring power back from the vehicles with permission. This next to last slide shows this team. I do not work by myself. I work on strategic accounts nationwide, but those different colored areas are the different people that you'll be hearing from at ABM in the different regions. Next slide. And that's it for me. As I mentioned, Antoine, are we going to go back to questions at the end when everyone's done?
Yes, I want to
Yeah.
see if our next speaker is here. Is Divesh on the call? From BG?
Either way, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We'll come back in a
Yep.
minute. I need to just get through our couple housekeeping items. Is Divesh on from BGE? Excellent. Okay. I want to go to Steve Steve from Citizen Energy. He wants to make a quick announcement, and then I'll try to get we'll take some questions, and we got to try to track down Divesh. Let me try to see where he's at. So Steve, you want to make your presentation, give your couple of things you wanted to mention?
Perfect. Thank you, Antoine. Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Alfaro, and I work for Citizen Energy's new EV adoption initiative and low-income communities here in the state of Maryland. And so I think all that information you just saw right now, that was great. We want to be able to teach that to low-income communities to make sure that these communities are not forgotten when we're transitioning. And what makes our program different is that we're bringing the education, but we're also bringing the charging stations at zero cost to properties. So what I'm here to ask is if any of you are interested to learn more about our program, if you're connected to affordable housing or have a potential property, please feel free to reach out to us. My email is steve@citizen-energy.com, and we'll share more details about that program. Thank you, Anton.
Thank you. Thank you. We love to support the good work that you all are doing. The need is great. Need is tremendous. And the thing about it is so many communities do not have adequate charging. And so we're excited to have so many folks looking to collaborate with us to help deploy more EV charging. I wanted to acknowledge a couple of our partners that are on. First, I want to recognize, before we go to questions, Nicole Kirby, who's the regional manager with the Clean Cities effort for our region. Nicole, hello, how are you?
Hi, Antoine. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
And I think I did see Alan Harnett, who is the executive director of the Virginia Clean Cities and our partner in trying to deploy all these chargers and everything EV and alternative fuels. Alan from Virginia, you want to say anything, Alan?
It's Friday, or it feels like a Friday to me. I was hiding from the cameras, and so it's just good to be in this world with you. And I'm just so excited. And Barry, we'll hold you to that to reach back to you about the green spot chargers. Sometimes it's hard to get those out to municipalities, and it could be really great to partner with ABM just to have one more path for getting chargers installed. I like to say this stuff is about how many people does it take to put in a light bulb? And we're like running those electric wires and putting in the little appliances and plugging them into cars. So there's some good stuff ahead. So, that's your fault for recognizing me. And I'm glad to be here in this world with you, Antoine.
No worries. No, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. We do have a number of municipalities that are on. We have a lot of real estate people that are on as well. Put your questions in the chat. We have a number of folks that are on that to recognize. You also want to recognize Bruce, Matt, and Sarah from the Virginia team as well. We have one of our board members I want to recognize who's a licensed architect, Denise, who's with ThinkBox. We'll go to Denise before we go to our next round of questions. Denise?
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so very much for attending today's webinar. I am enjoying myself and look forward to receiving some more critical information that will be helpful to us all. Thank you, Antoine.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. And her services for a lot of these projects are needed. You don't always need an architect, but sometimes you do. And so her information is available and she can put it in the chat as well. So I want to go back. We had some questions, and I know a number of the real estate folks have some questions on the how. There are a lot of incentives that are available at the state level, and there's a lot of federal funds that you as real estate owners and property managers can take advantage of. I see a number of our municipal officials from Virginia and from quasi-government agencies as well, from Virginia, Maryland, and DC. So please take advantage of these particular programs. We'll put back in the chat if you want to access the chargers that GWRCCC has for multi-unit dwellings in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. Please put that in the chat if you're in our part of the area. And if you're not, we'll send it to the appropriate sister or brother office. So I want to go to some of the questions. And I don't know, did Divesh, did he come on? I see a 240 number. Did he come on from BGE? Okay, we'll go. Okay, no worries. We'll go to the next question. All right. We talked about the presentations. We will send those around. How does EV charging installation efforts intersect with building energy performance improvement projects? All right.
I can take that.
Sure.
I'm familiar with this because ABM has a performance contracting division, but typically companies besides ABM are people like Siemens and Honeywell and Johnson Controls. They do long-term contracts to make energy improvements. The addition of EVs is a little bit different because you're actually adding to the electrical load of the building. It's not like putting in LED lighting. It's not like putting on a new roof or putting in a new boiler. However, if you're a public building and you're adding EVs to your fleet, you're getting rid of either diesel or gasoline charges. So between that and between the incentives, you can show a positive cash flow on it in most situations. Alan can tell you because we work together with a school district in Virginia. They're going to have a positive cash flow by replacing, I think right now, 5 diesel powered buses with 5 electric buses. The other thing you can do in buildings, if you're upgrading the lighting, quite often in a parking lot, if you have high pressure sodium lighting or low pressure sodium lighting, you can upgrade that lighting to LED and have enough excess capacity and hang the chargers right on the lighting poles. I've done that at airport projects down in New York City, where I'm heading to right now. The other thing that you alluded to, Antoine, are tax credits that are available. Certainly commercial building and homeowners associations, they're subject to taxes. Municipal buildings are not. However, through innovative leasing programs, there are ways to capture and monetize that. The federal tax credit, depending where you are, can be as high as 30% of the total cost of the charger. And then individual states have tax credits. In New York, where I live, we have a 50% New York State tax credit. So that's important to the overall cost analysis of any project.
All right, thank you, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
We have a couple more questions rolling, and I know some of the good shout out. I see my good buddy Luther Smith is all the way there from Harlem, New York. Good to see you, Luther. He is in real estate and in law, and good to see you all the way from New York City. Thank you for being here. Next question was, I see Green Spot is on. There was another question. Okay, I'm going down to the bottom here. Before I go to the next question from Bob, Barry, you know, what would you say is the first thing that any of these real estate folks should think about before? What's the first thing they should do beyond calling you? What's the first thing?
Right. You call me second. Call Antoine first. But first thing I'd do would be to contact your local electrical utility. So you have a project manager or someone, an account manager assigned to you. So I would go to the utility first and see what the situation is in terms of capacity in your building, and also whether or not your utility has what's known as a make ready program. So a make ready program can pay in some cases up to 80, perhaps even up to 100% of the cost of upgrading power to a facility if that electricity is going to be utilized for charging vehicles. So that would be the number one thing to get started.
Again for people.
Many utilities have what are called make-ready programs. So I work very closely with Con Ed in New York City, with National Grid in upstate New York, and with PG&E out in California. They have a program where the utility will, at its cost, upgrade the power capacity to a building if that additional power is going to be utilized for electric vehicle charging. It's done on a case-by-case basis. So it pays anywhere from 80 to up to, I just did one in Queens, New York, that paid 100% of the cost of upgrading the power to the facility. So make sure you're reaching out to your local utility first.
All right, you heard that, Luther. You got one of those buildings in New York City. You get that covered for you, okay? Is Luther still on? He might have jumped off. Let me see. Is he still on? Yeah, he's still on. Okay, good. And you too as well, Craven, all the way from Buffalo. So, you know, this is a rapidly growing industry, and you got National Grid is doing a lot in that space for those, and the same thing with BGE and Pepco in this area, and Dominion Energy is doing a phenomenal job in Maryland. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to Bob's question. Bob said, can one of the panelists address the question of controlling the cost of electricity due to demand charges, not a software capabilities of EV management system, but how to control costs of the installed level 2 chargers for level 2 and 6 to 10 unit system pulling 60 to 80 kilowatts. demand charges over 32 kWs make electric costs more expensive. Barry, you want to take a stab? You're muted.
Sure. Yeah. The certainly the control software can help with that. Every situation is different, but I could tell you, as I was describing earlier, if you had 6 to 8 to 10 vehicles all plugged in at the same time, it's very easy through the software to cycle them. Your demand charges, if your utility is like National Grid, that mine is, they're measured over a 15-minute period. So we can ensure that not all of the vehicles are receiving current, or it's choked down to the vehicles over that 15-minute period. So we can keep a peak if they let them all go full. If every vehicle came in completely empty and every charger was operating at its maximum, we could do that. But you do understand that the chargers will operate at their maximum output when the vehicle comes in if it's 80% depleted, the battery pack. So as the battery pack gets fuller, you can choke down the amount of current to stop as much heat as going into the battery pack. It is important to know that you have to monitor the chargers in order to do this. So you can't do it with an unintelligent charger. So what you could go buy at the Home Depot for $300, Clipper Creek charger, very nice unit, but it doesn't have demand control or monitoring capabilities. It requires that monitoring software. And if you'd like to offline share, your specific case and your utility, how you're charged with me, I'd be happy to follow up with you.
But you might be able to help them come over or something like that.
Sure.
Hey, Barry, I see Joe is just joined us from Green Spot. I want to call on Joe in just 2 minutes. Barry, I want to come back to you on a question. There's a lot of municipalities on the, and a lot of quasi-government agencies on. One of the things that people ask a lot about is the negotiating contracts. What advice would you give people on negotiating the fees, and also every charging company is different in terms of how they maintain it when it's broke. So I know I get those questions a lot as well. In fact, I got one this morning. What would you offer to the folks, especially these property managers? That can be a headache for tenants, right? Or condo owners, right? What advice would you give to them as they negotiate on maintenance and on fees as well?
Well, I can tell you, we maintain all of our chargers, right? That we've put in 28,000 of them. We're able to do that because ABM's a giant company with 200 branch offices, right? So there's a local office that can respond to that. That local office will have a technician who's been trained on repairing heating and air conditioning systems. And when we install EV chargers in their area, they get cross-trained on EV chargers. It's also important that a lot of the vendors in this space, they have relationships through the electrical contractors union, through local electricians. But I would urge you to have some sort of service agreement on it. You have service agreements on everything else. A typical level 2 charger, the service is taking it apart and cleaning it out, vacuuming it out once a year. But these fast chargers, they're quite a bit more sophisticated. They have cooling loops in them. They have filters in them that need to be changed. So if they're properly maintained, it shouldn't be an issue. The one thing that can be an issue, at least where I live, are snow plows. If you unplug your vehicle and you leave the charger cord laying on the parking lot, it'll get run over by a snow plow or it'll get plowed over. And so just use common sense on that.
Wow. Thanks, Edwin. Let me go to Joe, and I'm gonna come back to one of our partners, Edwin. Let me go to Joe from Green Spot. Thanks for joining us. We're gonna have Joe on a webinar leading the charge in January. But Joe, you wanna just tell us quickly about Green Spot, about your role in the helping with the Mid-Atlantic, and if these folks who have apartment buildings or 2-family homes, 3-unit, 8-unit buildings, mixed-use properties, how they can reach out to you. And I think your program does no upfront fees or something like that, but why don't you share that with them?
Happy to. Thank you, Antoine. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Joe. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of a company called Green Spot. And Green Spot is an electric vehicle infrastructure developer. As Antoine mentioned, as part of our partnership with MEP in the Greater Washington region, as well as Virginia Clean Cities, we're helping them to install, publicly accessible charging infrastructure. Now, that doesn't mean that if the parking is private, it doesn't qualify, and happy, to take those questions if you want to reach out to me directly. I'll add my contact information in the chat so you can grab it. But generally what we do, especially with multifamily, we truly believe that about 70 to 80% of the charging that will be done while people are sleeping or where they sleep, right? Which most likely is going to happen at home. So whether it's a small multifamily or a very large, 1,000-unit multifamily, you're going to need a solution to provide the residents and the community with chargers. So we do that at no cost. So in the way that we do it is through our partnership with Antoine and his team, and Alan's on the call as well with Virginia Clean Cities. But they provide a certain level of funding. The government wants to provide communities with charging, and then we match that funding. So we provide you a solution, all of the EV infrastructure you need from start to finish. And then once it's installed, we're operating it and we're maintaining that at no cost to you. So you don't have to worry about customer service or what happens if it breaks down, who do I call, or what do I do? We'll know right away if there's something wrong, and we'll probably reach out to you to resolve it. There's also an aspect that creates a revenue stream for you where we're sharing back our profit. So when drivers charge, a small piece of that electricity cost goes back to you. So you have a little bit of a revenue on a monthly basis, and then we also pay for the cost of the electricity. So essentially we give you a package. It's a long-term solution where you don't have to worry about it and there's no cost. If there is something wrong, then we'll communicate with you along the way. We have local technicians and electricians that can help us resolve the issues no matter where we're installing them. And we may need to order parts. We may need to update the software. But again, all of that stuff will be done. We'll manage and maintain all of that for you. In terms of contracts, that's a good point, because in order to install the infrastructure, you need real estate. So to do that, we have to form some sort of agreement that covers all the different terms and conditions that can apply. So we have various different contracts depending on the type of community. So if it's rental, if it's HOA, condos, if you have deeded parking, if you have common parking, we have contracts that are built specifically around all of those scenarios. And we've used those contracts successfully in multiple states. So we know that we'll have something that can work. Essentially, the way it works is like, reach out to me. We'll set up the initial phone call, explain the program, answer any questions you have. And we can do this with residents involved. If you have a board, you can involve the board. And we'll take that call, and then from there, what we do is send you a contract to start reviewing. That contract is basically a boilerplate. You can feel free to send that to your attorney, or feel free to make comments and redline it yourself. Send that back to us. We're basically negotiating at that point. Once we get to a point where we can execute, we sign the agreement, and from there the project starts. That gives us our approval. We need to start spending money. Now we have the real estate to install and develop the infrastructure. And then we work with you to develop the project. So we do the engineering, you get engineering plans, you can review that so you know exactly what we'll be doing. Once those are stamped and signed, then we hire a contractor. You'll have all of our insurances and everything needed to complete the construction. And then within, a matter of weeks, once the construction starts, you'll have functional equipment on the property.
Great.
So
Joe, quick question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question for you. I know you've been on a project for a little over a year now. How have you done any public projects with any municipalities?
Yeah.
Local, state, or government entities?
Yeah, so with MAP, we've done Ashland, Virginia, and we're about to do Fredericksburg and potentially Petersburg as well. We're in discussions with Alexandria. So mainly we've been focused in the Virginia area just because that was the main focus last year. But now we're reaching out to, I actually just was at an event over the previous week. We met one of the directors that heads up a public agency in Maryland. So, we know that we'll start working with more municipalities throughout the DC and the Maryland area, West Virginia as well, and Northern Virginia. Just a matter of time. And the municipalities are unique in a way where, you have different needs. You might have fleet charging needs as well. So all of that, we of course can help with that.
Thank you. I want to thank you for being on. We're going to have you on next month as well, every other month if we can. And I want to just, I know we have a number of local government folks, quasi-government entities, and a number of our real estate people. Do any of our real estate folks have any questions they'd like to ask? Any of the real estate people have any questions they'd like to ask? Craven, did you have anything? I know you're moving around. Any questions you have? All right. Okay. All right. What about you, Nisi? Do you have anything you want to ask at all? You got a good handle on it? Nisi's in the Upper Marlboro. She's licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Well, hearing none, what I want to do is I want to thank everyone. I think we got one more. Oh, okay. Joe put his email there. I want to thank our team for putting this on. I want to thank all of our partners. I want to thank Barry. You did a great job, Barry. I'd buy one from you too if I needed one.
Thank you, Antoine.
No problem. I want to thank all of our staff and our consultants who are on the call. I saw my wife on here earlier, who's in real estate as well, and an emerging real estate person as well. So I want to thank you, our board member Denise, who's also, they're doing projects all over the country. That might be someone for you, Barry, for you to collaborate with as well. So I want to thank you all. Until next year, everyone have a great, happy holiday season. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and happy Kwanzaa as well. And stay safe, and we'll see you in 2023. All right,
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. All right, bye-bye.